Yay, okay.
Yay!
What's up, buttercups?
What's up,
Fancy
buttercup?
seeing you here today. It's been a while since the last interview with the Fox. Sorry, not sorry. Life has been hectic, but we are here with Eloise. She is a new author. And Eloise, do you know how we met? This is a thing question that I ask every new person. And I like to hear different answers because sometimes it's different.
So I kind of met you through the author grapevine, if you will, where Emma Bennett commented on like my very first video that I posted on AuthorTube, and then from there, I started attending Andy's streams, and I kind of became aware of your presence in the chats there. And then at some point, Andy invited me to a Discord server that you were also on. And I was like, yeah, I know you. And I subscribed to your videos or channel and watched your videos. And yeah.
Yeah, same thing. It was Emma. And I don't think I was on the stream. I was just watching it because she used to do
No,
really.
you weren't on it.
I was on it. And
you were in the chat, and they were like, "Hi, Buttercup," and every time you popped in, they would say, "What's up, Buttercup?" And I was like, "Who is this person?"
Oh yeah, it's the person with buttercups, I guess. I don't remember when I started that. I think it was over a year ago, and I was just bored saying hello. And now everyone knows buttercups. Or yeah, what's up, buttercup? But I grew up with, the buttercups. You put it under your chin, and if you see yellow, then that means you're sweet. And I had to explain that.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I had to explain that to a few guys. But then there were other guys that were like, "Oh my gosh, I know exactly what you were talking about because I had sisters." I'm like, okay.
It's like all the jump rope. It's like all the jump rope songs and stuff. How you just know. You're like, where did I learn this from? We all know the same jump rope songs and stuff.
Yes, I wish I could jump rope, but my bulging disc in my lower back says no, you cannot. I miss jump rope. That is a really easy workout. Well, hypothetically workout. You know those it's not Twister, the one that you put around your leg and you have to hop.
Yeah, the one that'll whack you in your ankle if you don't do it right.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Well, because I'm left-handed and I did it backwards, so it would start at like 1,000 and go down to like 90, whatever it was.
Yeah.
So I could never tell, but in my heart, I knew that I did a lot of whatever that was.
You were the best at that.
I hope that I was. I didn't. I think after a while you just get bored of stuff and then you move on, and I have no idea where that thing is or what it's even called, but at least you know what I'm talking about. It was not a fever dream.
It was not.
It was just
exactly
like
what you're talking about.
Yeah, the roly poly Oli whatever
the cartoon?
Yes. It's like a fever dream until someone
what you're talking about.
Yeah. Until someone was like, okay, it's actually called this. And I forget what it's called again. But it's roly poly Oli. There's like stuff from childhood.
I could sing you the whole opening song to that song.
I know it's a fever dream now.
But see, we're the same age.
Yeah, I'm 31.
I did something to my Am I doing something to myself?
I don't know. I think you're fine.
I'm having music in my ears. I'm gonna have to.
Oh.
It's so weird. Like.
Mayday.
I touched trying to say is we are the same age, which I find
Okay.
odd because your birthday's around the same time as mine. So I feel like we remember a lot of the same things from our childhoods.
Yeah. Do you remember like the books that you read as a preteen and teenager? Probably well, hypothetically the same. That doesn't mean that because I was reading some obscure stuff.
You know,
So,
middle school, I remember reading Chronicles of Narnia and like feeling some big feelings with the last
yeah.
book. Like I was in tears. I was like
Oh,
got towards towards the I guess the 3/4 of the way through the last battle. This is next interview is not going to happen with my AirPods. um, just in tears over that, and then some friends got me introduced to Harry Potter, and then of course I found that Greek myth illustrated book in middle school.
ooh,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah,
those are the big ones.
I read Aragon in was it Inheritance Cycle? Yeah, and now it's not a cycle anymore
Mm-hmm.
because he released the Murtaugh book that's chunky. But all the books are chunky. And then like I got into reading the By the Del Toro Quest by Emily Rada, but I've only heard one other person say that she read it, and it was like another booktuber. And I'm like, well, I just read random stuff, I guess. But it's like epic fantasy for middle graders and young adult. Though, did you read Tamora Pierce? That's what that she was
Mm,
kind of
mm,
popular.
no, I am not a very good reader. I remember finding Trudy Canavan, the Black Magicians trilogy. I was
Oh,
like obsessed with that while I read that. Um, but no, my sister's a much bigger reader than I am. I use writing more as the escapism than the reading.
oh yeah,
So
because Eloise recently published her first book. It's right. It's correct, right? The first ever. Oh my.
correct. My first ever published book.
Oh, look at that. You had it
Just
already.
yay. I was like, I'm a professional, kind of.
Well, yeah, I have it on my to be read shelf. I am hoping to get to it in April because yeah, it's not much left in February. And then for March, it's all Irish stuff.
Nice.
So, and like the chunkiness for whatever reason of the Irish books. I'm like, yeah, I don't know, because I want to get all of them in. And then there's also the two messed up book club reads.
Yeah.
You're gonna look so weird when I do my wrap up for March and April. I'm like, okay, so here's all the Irish reads that make sense, and then here's the haunted vagina.
With the teeth.
Yeah. And how did I like it? I don't know. I'll tell you all in April. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. But like, I don't even know why we chose that particular one. And then, oh, Dr. Parasite, but that doesn't sound as bad as the haunted vagina.
I feel like I'll take the haunted vagina over Dr. Parasite.
Yeah, that cover is pretty graphic. Well,
Um,
both of them are like there, but Dr. Parasite is disgusting because like flies are coming out of the body. You know, Splatterpunk. That's the messed up horror book club. Don't join if you don't want to read messed up books.
yeah, I listen.
Yeah,
I
no,
listen to your recaps. I listen to your recaps of those books. I'm like, thanks, Nicole. I'm glad I don't ever have to read this ever, ever.
yeah. Sometimes we bring in classics, but yeah, for the most part, we find the weirdest. crap that you could find and then see if it's like actually good. Which some of them it's just like, oh, you're just doing it to annoy people, and 1 star for you. Thank you. But then there are other ones like Chandler Morrison books where you're like, oh, this is actually art, but it's also fucked up.
Yeah.
But isn't that how that works? You know,
Yeah.
art messed up sometimes, a lot of the time.
Oh, for sure, especially the horror kind. I have to tell you a secret. I'm so anti horror and scary movies that I've found YouTube channels that give a spoiler like summary of the scary movies, and I watch
Mhm.
those, so I know what happens and I can partake in discourse, but I don't actually have to watch them. So like I could tell you what happens in The Ring, or like
Uh-huh.
I've seen Saw, but all those scary movies like The Purge. Like I'm never gonna watch this, but I need to know what happens. And the same with books.
I would say Saw is worse than The Ring, but there are some people that think like kids are creepy,
I
and so
I
therefore
only
it's
find The
worse.
Ring scary.
Yeah, I think, well, when you watch it as a like younger, you're like, oh my god, this is terrifying. But I think as an adult, it might be a little easier. But then it might not be if you have a kid,
That's
because
true.
now
I
you're
watched.
dealing with like you might your kid might do that. You don't know, okay? That's the terror.
That's true. That's true. The monitors, and I learned that I didn't know this before I had my son, who's almost 5. The monitors that have the night vision, um, when you look at them, like when the child looks at the monitor, their eyes glow white. So we would be like, ah, demon baby. And like you'd check on them and they'd be asleep 1 minute, and then you'd check on them again and their eyes would be open and be like, ah. It's like your kid is jump
Oh,
scaring you
wow.
as an infant. Oh, geez.
That's your own horror movie. You're living
It
it
really is.
in
I
the
really
woods.
am sometimes living in my own horror movie.
Aren't we all? Unfortunately. Well, going back to the book that you wrote, it is not horror. It
No, it is
is,
not.
yeah, what is it all about?
So it is an adult historical fantasy that takes place in ancient Greece and explores the origins of the all-female warrior tribe of the Amazons. Um, so I came across the name of the first queen of the Amazons, Otrera, in a rabbit hole of research that I went down years ago when I was like, where did the Amazons even come from? Um, and I found her name, and I didn't really find anything else. And so it kind of just went from there. Of you know, kind of there's different origin myths of like Ares made them out of clay, and I can't remember what else because that's the only one that's stuck in my head because it was so weird. It's like Aries of all. I mean, I guess so. But I wanted to take a kind of a. I mean, there's still the fantastical elements involved with like some mythological creatures and the gods and their soft magic system. But I wanted to take a more realistic approach to it, of having women put in a position of questioning the status quo and being tired of the way that they are treated in the society of 1282 BC Greece. So this is well before um, Homer wrote the Iliad and the Odyssey. He wrote that in like 600 BC, but this is taking place even before Hercules is 12 labors and things like that. So it happens like after Perseus, but before Theseus and Hercules and the Argonauts and Trojan War and everything. So it's kind of this like obscure, floaty timeline frame in those well-known myths, with just a bunch of women running around.
Yeah.
Just the way I like it.
Yeah. Rock on. Yeah, I like Roman and Greek mythology, but I am not obsessed with it enough to write about it. I kind of like I have to really love something to write about it, especially historical fiction, because you have to do so much research. um,
For sure.
but yeah, and yeah, because the new thing, the new trend, actually, it's not like that new. It's been around for a couple of years. Is like writing World War One or World War Two women's historical fiction, and I'm like,
Hmm.
I don't care. So
Yeah.
you're not getting World War One or World War Two historical fiction from me. Sorry,
Yeah.
I don't even know people. Well, no, I know people are interested because they keep churning it out everywhere. I'm like, oh my god. I don't know. There's always trends of what is popular, of course, but yeah, I'm not jumping on that bandwagon. But Roman and Greek mythology retellings, or like just historical fiction, is fairly popular. Sometimes it will be, eclipsed by something else, but it doesn't stick around for very long, and then we jump back in. So you are doing a great job with
Well,
getting on
thanks.
that dragon. It's not even
It's
a
funny.
bandwagon, it's there.
It's funny. I've heard of some other like bigger booktubers that they're like, I'm over Greek myth retellings, and I'm like, well, guess you can come back in 5 years when you're into it again.
Yeah, well, don't you have
But
like a bunch of books? Yeah, they could
oh
just.
yeah, so well, the first thing that I was going to say is I am completely on the same page with you of like I have to be interested in it to write about it, and I don't care if it's popular or not. I'm going to write what I want to write, and that's kind of what I went in with this is like, okay, what's the kind of book that I want to see is the really strong female representation of all the different attitudes a woman can have. We've got like women who really want to question the status quo. Some of them more for it, some that really dislike men or are fearful of men, some that like men, just all, and some that like want to be warriors and question those gender roles, where others are perfectly happy to stay in those gender roles. But Maiden of Artemis is book one of Legend of the Amazons, and I'm planning on having 6 about Otrera, and then I've got probably 6 additional book ideas within this little Eloise's Greek universe, EGU plan. So I'm planning on really investing in the ancient Greek. So I guess if you don't like it, well, check in like 20 or 25 years, and I might be writing something else.
Yeah. I think when people are like, "Oh, I'm sick of this particular thing," I'm like, there are other things. But a lot of booktubers go for like the what other people are reading.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, well,
Well, and I've seen that a lot of the like the Greek myth retellings they're just taking and I guess I'm doing the same thing, except for mine is just so minor and so obscure. Like they're taking Circe, Medea, Cassandra, um, all these minor female characters in these other myths, Ariadne, and focusing in on them. And trying to, so there's a lot more myth that they are working around and taking their spin on it, whereas Otrera is just like, it just says like Otrera, first queen of the Amazons. So it's Otrera and the gods, and everything else in my series is original to the series. So it's like a retelling, but it's also not, if that makes any sense.
yeah, I know that like it's the same thing for historical fiction, where now in historical fantasy, depending on blah blah, where like they're finding historical figures and writing
Mm-hmm.
them as the main character, or like the mythological person or god or something like that, and then that's the main
Yeah.
character, and they're going with that. But yeah, for a while, it wasn't always like that. Like when I was writing all of my standalone, it was like it wasn't a trend, but at least it was side by side with what was going on. But like you made up your own character, and then everything else was historically accurate. I
Yeah.
mean, or historically they were there, right?
Right, right,
But
right.
um, I just like doing that also because there have been lots of like recent um pushback from families, and I'm like, do I want to get into a legal situation? No, I do not. I do not. So I
Yeah.
will make up this character, and then everything else is, to the point. But yeah, I think one of the best historical fiction writers right now, but she's been at it for a while, is Stephanie Dre. And I do want to read Kate Quinn, but like Kate Quinn, wait, no, I read Kate. Oh my God. Where did she go? I think I did read Kate Quinn. She started out doing Roman historical fiction, and now she does um, World War One and World War Two because it's the thing. And I'm like, well, Kate, I'm
Right.
not going to read that. So can you go back and do something else? They'd be great because you're a great writer, Kate. But like, how many books can you write about the same time period? I mean, a lot, but I'm like, oh my gosh. But I'm going backwards in time with like finding historical fiction readings that isn't just what the trend is. That can get a little annoying. There's well, I don't know if it's a trend, but it's a very popular. I don't think no, she just does retellings of vampire stories. S.T. Gibson. I'm like, I think that's just, I think that counts as fantasy retelling or something like that, or classic retelling. But they're all like fantasy. I don't know what you call it. But S.T. Gibson, I'm interested. I'm interested. She started out indie, and then A Dowry of Blood, that is in the point of view of one of the brides of Dracula, got so popular she got picked up by a traditional publishing house.
Mhm.
And I just read Carmilla, love it. And then I guess something something in Malice. I'm so good at titles, it's fine. Her recent book is a retelling of Carmilla. I'm like, oh yes, here we go. I'm excited. I just have to read A Dowry of Blood because that's what I own. But I see a lot of retellings, but like not just Greek or Roman, just retellings. And it's interesting. I'm intrigued. Have you noticed that?
I have that. Oh, especially like fairy tale retellings. Like, I mean, ACOTAR is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, right? And there's just all
Mhm.
sorts of retellings where, and I'm not saying this in a negative way at all, but it's a little bit easier to have a retelling of some sort and put your spin on it than try and come up with a completely from scratch like world, or I don't know. And I feel like also a lot of the fairy tale retellings are because the themes within the retelling is so universal. Like, I saw this meme about Beauty and the Beast. Ah, yes, the Frenchman who's disfigured that wants to be loved, and then um, Hunchback of Notre Dame. Ah, yes, the disfigured Frenchman that wants to be loved. And there's someone else. It was like Les Miserables. Ah, yes, the disfigured Frenchman that wants to. It's just, it's like Shakespeare retellings, if you will, but then like fairy tales are just so much easier to digest as opposed to trying to take some obscure Shakespeare, because Romeo and Juliet has been redone a million times, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I was thinking that one of the reasons why maybe World War II and World War One historical fantasy are so, or historical fiction, sorry, are so popular is because of the ease of access with research. Like, it's so much easier to um, get the details right, whereas like the best I have to work off of is from Homer's stuff, but he wrote it in 600 BC, and then if mine takes place in like 1282 BC, so that's a good almost 1,000 years beforehand.
Yeah.
You know, in the Dark Ages, it's like the Bronze, it's the dark Greek, ancient Greek Dark Ages between like the Bronze Age and the Iron Age. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's a
give
tough
I
one.
give myself some grace for that. I'm like, oh yeah, the trees were tall, and they're like, are the trees tall? And I'm dropping myself in Google Maps. I'm like, this geography doesn't. This isn't quite 1,000, 3,000 years ago. They had more forests than this. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I guess that's also a good point. And there are some people still alive, not a lot, but there's some people still alive from World War II at least, where then it's like you're not completely forgotten. And lots of historians hold up World War One and World War II. Like my husband is kind of obsessed with both. Don't tell me why, but I think a
I
lot
have.
of guys.
I feel like a lot of American guys of a certain age and disposition are very interested in World War II, especially.
Yeah, World War One, but he's military, so that's like he has to.
Yeah,
They took many classes, and then like what of all of the um big wars and even obscure wars and see like what worked and what didn't, and what did we learn from it so we don't do this and that. I mean, but like I like the American Revolutionary War more, and he's like interested but not obsessed. And it's just kind of interesting how it's how people choose different things. 'Cause I know so much of World War One and World War Two, but I'm not interested. He just like puts on those documentaries and I'm listening in the background. But then like we'll talk about American Revolutionary War, but I get more excited. It's like we it's different tastes. It's fine.
my my husband is very similar, where he is interested. He would watch a World War II. He was also prior military, so he will watch a World War II documentary and have a lot of strong opinions on all the things, and be like, "Well, what is this battle?" Um, and I was trying to talk to him about like Roman history, even, because I find that fascinating as well. Not quite as much as the mythology, because that's all just like telenovela, but ancient. Um, so that one's just like fun. But he couldn't care less about the Roman Empire, and this came up because of the meme that was like, "How often do you think about the Roman Empire?" And he doesn't at all. And I was like, "Well, why not? Like, they're the source of so many things." He's like, "Well, it doesn't impact my like day-to-day life, or even like the Revolutionary War with the British Empire." Like, he doesn't care, and it's like, I don't know. What do you mean? The Romans invented concrete. How does that not impact? He invented the Gregorian calendar. How does that not impact you on a day-to-day basis? But World War II does, I guess. So,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, at least like I am interested in Roman stuff, and uh, my husband really loves Rome and Greece, and he lived in Greece for a few years as a kid. Um, and so he's really into that. And then what else? Like the Renaissance, we're both interested in, but not obsessed. There's like just random stuff we'll just have a conversation about. I don't know. But like I think he likes historical fiction, so at least we're on that same page. But I grew up in a household mainly with my grandparents on my dad's side, very big into Ireland and Scotland, but like mainly Ireland because my grandma ran the house. Okay, she's Irish. Okay, she's got that red hair, green eyes, freckles, Irish. And then, Scottish grandpa, we go to the Scottish Highland Festival sometimes and he wears a kilt and he does the bagpipes, but like, yeah, Ireland, rah rah. And so it was a lot of Irish mythology, legends, history, and I knew way more when I was younger when she was actively talking about it all the time, and I wish I could have retained more because then I have to like look up stuff in books and like I knew this automatically, stupid brain. Getting brain fog at 31. Yes, I'm old. But uh Danu's Curse, which is the Irish fantasy, like historical Irish fantasy, was really inspired by that, and then also Morgan Llewellyn's take on historical fantasy, specifically Irish stuff. I think like the first book that I read of her was Finn McCool, and like it blew my teenage mind. And there's like usually there's like that one book where you're like,
Mhm.
my life is completely changed. And it
Mhm.
was like as a teenager reading adult books. I'm like, oh, this is what adult books are like. Oh my god. Amazing prose, like, oh wow, that's a plot twist. There's so many, and then like it's so beautiful at the same time creepy and like but I'm sure you can get that in young adult and middle grade, but I think it was like more profound maybe because I found it on my own on her bookshelf, and I think that might be different than like I'm going to Barnes Noble to the middle grade section.
Right.
Like what's going to happen in the middle grade section. But talking about private areas in a very beautiful way. You're like, what happened?
You're like, ooh, I guess I guess I know what happens.
Yeah, here we go.
Go to school. Well,
Calling
I've been
myself
about, I've been around the block of this book, so I know some things that you don't.
yeah. No, yeah, and I was reading The Greener Shore by Morgan Llewellyn, and people were like, "What kind of book is that? You're so weird." I'm like, "Yeah, it's actually
Yeah,
amazing."
want to fight about
Oh,
it?
my yeah, you want to find about it? Like, yes, and you're getting like C's and D's and like all your stuff, so maybe you should be reading. I
No.
don't know. Don't be calling out me. I'm having a grand old time. But yeah, obscure books. I don't know. Like it's fine. But I think yeah, there's just some historical times where you connect with, and then I don't know, I think because I also grew up with fantasy, so historical fantasy is like a merge of like perfection. I don't know. I don't know if you feel the same way. Because, well, you said adult, like retelling historical fantasy,
Well,
right?
I just like fantasy in general because
Hmm.
I personally read and write to escape
Hmm.
this.
Yeah. Yes.
Not like this house, but like
This life.
this. um. So, uh, I'm I'm not into contemporary or anything like that. And definitely wouldn't be into like historical World War II and one because like if I wanted to read that kind of stuff, I could just watch the news. Um,
Yeah.
but like, oh, okay, they still have problems, but it's like finding something to eat.
Yeah.
uh, and
Yeah,
the magic of it, of course. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I think, I used to read more epic fantasy, but, like, the adult epic fantasy, like, bro, 900 pages.
Yeah.
Are we serious
Yeah.
right
I think it took me like a year to finish Game of Thrones, like the first book, because I would read like a chapter a night at the most. Sometimes I'm a very slow reader. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, why is this so chunky?
Ugh.
So
I gave that first book 1 star, and I didn't continue. But well, it started strong, and then it just died, so
don't get me started on that show.
yeah, it had a not so peaceful death.
Oh yeah. I
But,
could rant about that show, but that would take up the whole rest of the time.
we don't wanna piss off the Game of Thrones fans, they're gonna get you. Yeah.
I don't care. I don't care. They can
Yeah.
come for me. I'll fight them. Because I was a Game of Thrones fan until that last season. So
Yeah, I gave up. It's fine. Sometimes you gotta give stuff. You're like, "It's what it
yeah,
is, do better."
yeah. All I gotta say is I'm not watching anything else that is connected to that because the producers did us so dirty.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm trying to think of, well, other than Lord of the Rings, those 3 movies, we're not gonna include The Hobbit. Okay. Peter Jackson, I don't know what happened there. I'm trying to think of, like, other shows or movies that did well regarding the book.
So in from my limited reading experiences and movie watching, I feel like the one film adaptation that I enjoyed so much more than the book was Les
Mhm.
Miserables.
Oh, yeah, that thing's chunky. Isn't it now? It's like
It is,
a
I don't, have you read it
no,
or
because it's like
listened to it? Do yourself a favor and just don't. Just watch like the Liam Neeson version if you don't even like musicals. Because, so the problem, from what I understand, the problem with the book, because the story is brilliant, um, but I think at the time, authors were paid by the word.
oh, yeah.
And so
Mhm.
Victor Hugo spends the first 10 chapters. Have you seen the musical or the movie at all?
Yeah, I
So he
forget.
spends the first 10 plus chapters about the priest,
Yeah.
just about the priest. And then at some point, he goes on to this tangent about Waterloo, which has nothing to do with anything. And then he spends another, like in the scenes when they're going through the sewer, he spends, I don't know how many pages talking about the history of the Parisian sewer system.
Yeah, that's why I like the older books, not every single one, but, like, the older ones, I'm like, "Yeah, we're gonna skip this. Thank you very much."
Yeah, let me get the cliff notes.
Yeah. The 2 movies that the did better than the books, in my opinion, is Practical Magic and P.S. I Love You, which is actually kind of
I've seen
amazing.
P.S. I Love You. I don't think I've seen Practical Magic. I'll
It's
have to watch it.
yeah, the book is good, and so is, like, P.S. I Love You, so, like, they're good,
Hmm.
but there was a spark missing from both of them that the movies did, and props to the writers, actors, director, everything, because that's I can only think of 2 movies that were better than the book, so thumbs up. Oh, well, like Matilda,
I did enjoy Matilda. Yeah.
that was good. I have read a few 2, it's just 2, doll books, and I'm like, "Why?"
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna even read Matilda because the movie is way better. but I don't want to
Well,
ruin
you can't do better than Danny DeVito. So
it. Yeah. That makes me kind of want to try Always Sunny in Philadelphia, but like it's the longest I think running TV show possibly ever at this point. And I'm like, do I want to do 20 seasons? I don't know. Even I think they're at 30, just 30 minutes. I'm like, 20 seasons.
I mean, if you can listen to it, if you're like, so I work from home and I just will listen to YouTube all day.
Yeah.
So you could, if you were in that situation. I tried watching that show, and I don't know what the actor's name is, but his voice is a bit grating, so I had to
Mm,
stop. Like what he was saying was funny, but the voice himself, I was like, I can't do this.
yeah. There's a lot of great memes from Always Sunny.
Yes,
So I'm just like, do
between
I want
that and
to?
The Office.
Yeah. Do I want to watch it so I like fully understand? Maybe not. Maybe when other things on my list, which is extensive, are done. So maybe 10 years. And if they're still going, then it's at the point where you're like, okay, you gotta jump in because they're still freaking going.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh wait, I think Arthur, the kid cartoon was the longest kid cartoon running and it just recently ended. I'm like, good for you, Arthur.
What?
Good for you. It
That's
kept going.
nuts. That's
I don't know.
crazy.
What? Oh, maybe no, Sesame Street is puppets. Different.
Yeah, it doesn't count. Yeah,
But I will watch the crap out of Sesame Street. Cookie Monster.
I do love Cookie Monster.
And well, I grew up with the Muppets. It was Barney, the Muppets,
There you
and
go. There's
Miss.
another movie that did better than the book. Is Muppets Treasure Island.
Oh yeah. Oh, I really love the Muppet Christmas Carol.
Yes, I think that's definitely my favorite version of the Christmas Carol.
Yeah, the Christmas wait no, yeah, Scrooge is the same.
Scrooge is Martin Kane. Martin Kane, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I was like, oh, so there's like a bunch of um movies that are Scrooge, but it doesn't say A Christmas Carol. I don't know
Yeah,
why.
Michael Caine. Okay, sorry. Oh my gosh, people are
He's the
probably gonna
best
be yelling at me in the comments.
Scrooge.
Michael Caine.
He's the best,
Y'all knew who
bestest.
I was talking about. He's the
Yeah,
best.
but like he should have got an Oscar because pretending that those Muppets were real, Oscar worthy, but
Yeah.
they did not go for it, and that's unacceptable. So that's okay. We'll just hold that against the Oscars for the rest of their life.
Mhm.
And yeah, Tim Curry as the pirate. I forget the pirate's name, but yeah, like Chef's Kiss.
Long John Silver. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
he's the
yeah.
best.
Did you ever watch Fern Gully?
I did. And him as the muck thing, that was terrifying. That terrified me as a child.
I was like, I remember as a kid, I was like, well, this is interesting, toxic gush,
Sludge.
what?
Yeah.
Yes. And then like I recently rewatched the Tim Curry's Toxic Love, and I'm like, I am simping over toxic waste right now. Tim, you need to stop with your voice
I'm gonna
and
have to
just
rewatch it.
all of it.
Because like all I remember of that movie is how scared he made. Like it canceled out any of the magic with the fairies. I was too busy being terrified of Tim Curry's character.
No, and then I related to Batty because sometimes I will short circuit and I'm just like, where was I? Batty! Okay, we're back. What are we doing here? There's too much going on in my mind. Um, but I don't have an electric shock. Maybe that would help. but Batty it does not help. Poor Batty. But I thought it was a really great movie, though. I think it's interesting. There are like movies definitely couldn't turn into a book, and then there are some books where it's like pretty good TV show or movie, but then a lot of the time they just ruin the book because they try to slam it into an hour and a half. And I'm like, there's so much potential, right? But you messed it up.
Mhm.
And when viewers say we want the book in movie form, that is what it is. Like, put the book on the screen. Don't add stuff.
Yeah.
Or like don't take away main points, or else it's not book. No,
Yeah.
that was The Hobbit. Well, the first
That was so
Hobbit,
many
yeah.
series.
The first movie of The Hobbit was fine, but I have a problem with Peter Jackson adding in the Legolas whatever love triangle. Excuse me, sir.
I
Sir.
don't think I remember watching it, the first one, but I don't think I watched whatever the second or
Yeah, don't particularly watch the second and
I don't
third one.
know.
I think
It
grade.
wasn't memorable like
No.
Lord of the Rings was.
Yeah, there's a different, like, I don't know, whimsicalness. We're gonna go with that, of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I don't know what happened with The Hobbit, but you didn't have to make it a trilogy. That probably was number one. Number two, making it Legolas in a love triangle with another elf that did not exist, and then one of the dwarves, and then he gets his heart broken, and that's why he is the way he is. I'm like, or he's an elf.
Yeah, what do you mean he is the way he is? He just seemed like a elf.
Or broody, yeah. Oh my god, I'm brooding over this, love triangle that happened, blah blah blah, 500 years ago, whatever the timeline was. I'm like,
Or he's just distant and disconnected. That was something that I was thinking about with my my book segue.
yeah,
So with there's some relationships happening with immortals, between mortals and immortals, and so there were some things that I was like, there's that trope of that some people really hate, of like the immortal guy with the young woman, Twilight, and I can't think of all the other, I don't know, all the other well known anything where it's like, oh yeah, he's hundreds and thousands of years old and she's 19, but he's attracted to her. So I was trying to think of like a solid reason why the gods would be, other than Zeus,
yeah, yeah.
why the gods would be interested in getting involved with mortals. And I came to this conclusion that they do it to remind themselves of the beauty of life and the beauty of the universe, because when you're around for eons, it all just gets kind of, you get just jaded and you forget that to savor the little things, because to you a year is like a blink of an eye. But then when you're spending time with this mortal who, it's like when you have a child and you're re-experiencing all the things all over again. You're getting to see a butterfly for when they see the butterfly for the first time. You're like, oh wow, yeah, the butterfly, like look how cool. Um, but on an additional level. So, and of course, falling in love with a mortal comes with other things, and also helping them like feel emotions. It's like when you listen to a song that is going to make you sad, but you listen to it because you just want to feel something.
Yeah. Let
You're
me
like,
feel my
I know.
feels.
Yeah, I just want to feel something. I just want to watch this sad movie so I can feel something other than just being numb.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, my teen years. Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, like Legolas just being distant and whatever and indifferent about everything in Lord of the Rings. Like, why do you need to have love trying to go for that. If he's hundreds of years old, he would be jaded. It makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's like also when like you can criticize Sarah J. Maas for a number of things, but one of them I don't think, probably though, because I know a lot of the folklore of Fae
Mhm.
where they're not nice. Like they're just not nice and they're violent and they're very
Mhm.
selfish. And so then people will complain about the Fae in Sarah J. Maas's books as being all those things, and it's like she's following the lore.
Yeah.
I mean, you can complain about the other stuff, but like they're not human.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of, I don't know why, but from what I've seen, there's a lot of people, especially when we're talking about fae or fairies of Norse, Celtic, and Germanic
Mhm.
folklore, all of that umbrella, where they're not nice for the most part. There's some that are okay, but like for the most part, they're nasty,
Mhm.
and that's part of the whole like mythology and history of those areas. And then the complaints would be, oh, but they're not nice.
I
They're
think
violent.
all those people complaining just don't know
Yeah,
about what it really is. When they think of fairy, they think of like Tinkerbell. But Tinkerbell wasn't nice either. She
yeah, she
was
was
awful. Like
pretty
I love
bitchy.
her.
Yeah,
She's sassy, but she was a bitch.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
she tried to kill Wendy
yeah.
because she
Where are
was
you getting your
jealous.
fairies from? Like,
Yeah.
are you growing
Yeah.
up with fairy
Yeah.
folklore? Not what it tracks.
I mean, you don't tell fairies your name. Like you don't do
Yeah,
certain things. Like what are you doing? Ay,
but
ay,
yeah, there, and I think when, well, because we're mortals and it's not going to happen that we're going to live, uh, well, like a small portion will live to 100, but like we're not immortal. So I think
Mhm.
also some people, it's, well, not even some, it's like a lot of people, it's hard to understand mortal stuff. So you might have to explain that somehow in a creative way, but then even some people still don't get it. But yeah, I don't do like hardcore nasty fairies because I also did grow up where with the other lore where they were, interested in playing games and stuff with humans.
Mhm.
And that's kind of in Ireland, it's like a trickster-ish, depending on the fairy, or the elf. But I think it's just cute. It's cute.
I feel like my favorite kind of fairy is the Midsummer Night's Dream fairy, where they have
Yeah.
their own little squabbles, and then they either use humans as pawns in their like with Oberon and Titania, like using the humans as pawns to get back to each other. Maybe that's like one of the reasons why I see them similar to the Greek gods. Um,
Mm.
of just them being like, oh, well, I'm going to mess with this person and you can do whatever. Or they just want to mess with them just because they're bored.
Yeah.
Like Puck.
Yeah. Huh, so cute. That's kind of Poe, and I wonder if Heather Fawcett did that on purpose. Poe is like a little he's not a house fairy, but like he takes care of people's land.
Mm-hmm.
Um in the Emily Wilde book series, which is adorable. Love it. And well, for that one, Poe is like the nicer of the fairies, but he's still really violent. I'm like, you know what? You're like 5,000 years old or whatever. I mean, I will let it pass because you're adorable. Your violent ways. Okay, it's fine. It was the same for the second book where there's vulpine fairies. So they like, because I'm obsessed with foxes. Hello, duh. Interview with a fox. You see foxes all over the place. This is not new, but I was obsessed with the vulpine fairies that like turn into foxes, and they're like shapeshifters, but not really.
Mhm.
And a group of them almost kills someone, but I'm just like, oh my god, it's so cute.
They didn't
There's
know better.
I didn't know. They haven't seen a human in like forever. They're just having fun. Like,
It's not their fault. They're not used to how like breakable we are.
yeah, that's kind of. I think that's with a lot of myths and legends and lore when it comes to immortals and deities. Like, they don't get it, and so like I don't know. I know some people say they don't get a pass. I'm like, okay, but they're 10,000 years old. Like, I don't. Mm, it's
Yeah.
hard. It's hard out there being a deity. It's really
Well,
damn
and
hard.
it's not even necessarily the age. It's just like the invincibility or whatever. You get whacked by by a mace or something, and you don't get hurt, or you're like, oh, I gotta walk that one off. Whereas it's just gonna squash something. Like, you know, I don't know.
Yeah. I
The
think,
invincibility aspect of it.
yeah. And, well, depending on the lore, there are some where, like, some immortals only die if you stab them.
Mhm.
Some of them, like, they can get sick, but with only certain things, and then you stab them.
Mhm.
And there are some like immortals where they die after 30,000 years.
Yeah.
So like they die, but it takes a long time.
Yeah.
So I guess yeah, it depends on the lore and all that stuff, and I get like yeah how they might act. But yeah, I like the sassy fairies. I don't know, but I understand the concept of these fae are mean, or these gods don't understand the concept of playing nice, because
Yeah.
why would they with other gods and goddesses that don't die?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like it. So it's one of the things that I've or like between there's the criticism of like, oh well, they're choosing to be with this young woman instead of like a 40-year-old woman. But like if you're looking statistically at, and this is gonna get nerdy, but if you take the age and compare it as a fraction to their age, like 20 years difference is not, it doesn't isn't significant enough of a life experience to make a difference necessarily. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, you're immature compared to me, whether you're 20 or you're 40, but you look a lot better when you're 20. That makes any
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, and they could also just be still immature even if they're like
Oh, for
200 years
sure.
old.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to live for 200,000, you're a baby.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So,
Yeah, I think I don't know exactly because I don't have like that trope interest, but it's like all over the place. And romance or just like all the things, not even just romance. But I know at least for Tessa and Bloodsworth and Obsidian Murders, and then like the other 5 books, um, they're just best friends, and there's still like weirdness because he's 500 years old and she's 22, and she is like, what are you on when you're speaking? You sound like you're from, I don't even know what time period, but it's not this Bloodsworth. Maybe recalibrate here. I don't know what you said. But, or especially because he's a vampire. Like there's one scene
mhm.
in Murderous Fairies where like he touches a dead body, and then he like, he thinks, he ponders and touches like the side of his face, and there's some like icky stuff, and she's like, okay, well, that's nasty, but as a vampire, that's not on his radar.
Yeah, he
He's not
doesn't
gonna
care.
die from any of that, and yeah, I mean,
Right.
he sucks not
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
anymore. He sucks blood out of people's bodies. Like, yeah. I think it's interesting when there's things where, as humans, we have to think about being immortal or a deity, but like we don't know because we're not any of those things. So we're just making
Right.
shit up.
For sure. Yeah. That's one of my favorite parts of this. I'm going to, so one of the additional books that I have planned is like a companion novel of, so I have prologues and epilogues from the gods' point of views.
Hmm.
So in Maiden of Artemis, it's from Artemis's point of view. And each book will have a different god's point of view as the prologue and epilogue.
Hmm.
But then the rest of it's just from Ochura's limited point of view. So there's all the things happening in the background, petty nonsense between the gods that she's not seeing, but is impacting her and
Hmm.
her found family. And so I want to, it's either going to be one book or a couple of books of like, okay, here's all like the cut scenes of all the gods, the gods like bickering and all the stuff in the background. Uh, so that'll be a lot of fun to write.
Yeah, we do love the bickering. And then when they think it's like not a big deal, but then it
Mm-hmm.
ruins like a whole city because they had a little spat. They're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I have a problem with you," and it starts
Yeah,
all over again.
exactly. It's like, oops, sorry,
Big
sorry.
issues going on.
Yeah, exactly. But, or like, even they're not big issues. And that's the part that's like the most frustrating for the mortal characters is like, are you kidding me? Like, he spilled your cup of coffee and you're just gonna go on this rampage because you are this childish and
Yeah,
it's gonna destroy like towns.
yeah. Ah, gods, we love them and we hate them. Isn't that how that
Yes,
goes?
for sure.
Well, we're over an hour and it is late for us. Not for you all watching, or maybe whenever you want to watch this episode, you do you. But we do want to wrap up. But where can we find you, Eloise? Y'all know how to find me, but where do we find Eloise?
You can find me on here on YouTube on I think it's Eloise Bahr Writes. I'm on Instagram. I'm very barely on TikTok, mainly on Instagram and YouTube.
I,
And Maiden of Artemis is available now, where all wonderful books are sold in ebook and
oh,
paperback.
yes. And I think YouTube's like the best place, I'm just
I do
saying.
too.
So, thank you for joining me, everyone, and we'll see you in the next interview with a fox coming whenever. That's the wrap
Thanks
up.
for having me, Nicole.
Thank you.